Hey everybody, it's Innovision, and today I've got something completely game-changing to share with you. Ever since SteamOS became available on third-party handhelds, I've had so many folks in the community ask me if they could try SteamOS out without affecting their existing data or installation. In today's video, I'll be sharing a couple of software tools I put together for the community that allows you to install SteamOS on any internal or external storage device. I'll even be sharing a step-by-step guide on how to use them. Stick around, cause you don't wanna miss any of it. As we get started, it's imperative that you listen to this discussion in its entirety before skipping ahead to other sections of the video. By default, SteamOS ships with an installation script that's used to repair or install SteamOS that hard codes the installer to use the first addressable NVMe internal solid-state drive, whether it's in your computer or your gaming handheld. In fact, if your device doesn't have a NVMe SSD, the SteamOS installer will just exit. It is for this reason why we need community-based tooling to further customize our installation. The two software tools that I worked on and I'm presenting here have two different origins. In an earlier video, I shared a SteamOS custom install script put together by Alexander, a subscriber and friend of our community. And his install script allows you to manually specify partition indices such that you can add SteamOS to your existing Windows installation so long as you have free space. I created a fork off of his repository to be able to add new features to his installer. These new features allow you to manually pick which device you want SteamOS to be installed to, and it removes the restriction of it having to be an NVMe SSD. And just this morning, I submitted a pull request so that those features can make it back up into the upstream repository. The second tool I'll be sharing is a modified version of the SteamOS repair device script that ships with the SteamOS installer. The repair device script allows you to either reinstall SteamOS or try to repair your existing installation. So I've modified the repair device script so that you can manually specify which storage device you'd like to perform these operations on. And this could be any internal or external storage device. Generally speaking, if your goal is to only install SteamOS, both of these tools can be used interchangeably. But our customized repair script has the added advantage of being able to try to repair your existing SteamOS installation. The way SteamOS works is all the operating system files and bootloaders live on a separate partition from the partition which contains all your game downloads and user settings. And so the repair script tries to go in there and lay down the files that are needed to make SteamOS work without affecting all of your data. And so my goal with the repair script is to actually continue to enhance it for folks that have a dual boot setup. One day you'll be able to use that same script to repair your existing SteamOS installation without messing up Windows and trying to preserve as much data as possible. And the way the script works, generally speaking, right out of the box, if it's not able to fix or recover SteamOS, then you have to resort to the full wipe. It's going to take a little while to tweak the installer further to handle the cases for dual boot setups. But for here today, you can manually specify which device SteamOS is already installed to, and then it will repair it right then and there. I would avoid using it today for dual boot setups unless your dual boot is a setup where you have two separate drives. And that's something that's very cool about what we're showing you here today. I actually have a high performance gaming computer that has a dual boot with Windows and SteamOS, and they both live on separate NVMe SSDs. And by default, SteamOS tries to install to the first NVMe SSD. Well, on my gaming computer, that's my Windows drive, and I wanted to be able to install SteamOS on my secondary NVMe SSD, and that's now possible because of this script. I've also installed SteamOS on external USB storage devices, NVMe SSDs that are in external enclosures. I haven't tried it yet, but it will work on a spinning old school hard drive. We've entered a new era of being able to take our SteamOS install anywhere. You could have SteamOS and your games installed on a USB storage device and take it to another computer that supports SteamOS, disable secure boot, and boom, you've booted into your own SteamOS environment. One thing I want everyone to keep in mind is that by default, SteamOS is not intended to run on anything but NVMe SSDs. If you install SteamOS to a non-NVMe SSD, there's likely an impact to performance. By the end of the video, I share a gameplay example where I'm running SteamOS and Elden Ring off of an external NVMe SSD, and I'm getting the same frame rates I would when I'm using my internal NVMe SSD. And so it really depends on the quality of your storage device in terms of the types of games you'll be able to play. I think for a vast majority of games, you should be fine because SteamOS was already designed to be able to use the SD memory card in the Steam Deck, and you could play Elden Ring just fine off of an SD memory card. And so another thing I just want to call out, on Lenovo Legion Go devices, you cannot boot off of an SD memory card, which is unfortunate unless Lenovo allows you to enumerate the SD memory card as a bootable device. And so that would require a firmware update from Lenovo. But for the remainder of this video, I'm going to show you how to clone both of the repositories and make the scripts executable. I'll share an example of using the custom SteamOS installer on the OG Legion Go using an external NVMe SSD to add SteamOS to my device that's currently running CachyOS. And I'll follow that up by using the custom repair device script to show you how to install SteamOS on your Atari VCS console. Again, you can use both of these scripts interchangeably if your plan is only to install SteamOS. All right, let's get started. And there we are, we're in CachyOS. Let's just take a look real quick. You can see it's CachyOS Linux using the Steam Deck stable client. So I'm going to go ahead and shut down. And I'm going to show you how to boot off the SteamOS recovery media and how to install SteamOS. Alright, so what we've got right here is our OG Legion Go. We have got this cable coming in from our dock. The dock has Ethernet power and it's got a mouse and keyboard hooked up to it, and the SteamOS installation media. And then down here, I've got an external NVMe SSD and a USB 3 Type-C enclosure. And it doesn't matter if you're using NVMe SSD for your external drive. It could actually be an external hard drive. It could be a USB storage media. But to make things simpler for me and to speed up my process here today, I'm going to use NVMe SSD. But you can use any external drive, it'll just be slower. And so I'm holding volume plus and tapping the power button, and we're gonna go into the Legion Go BIOS. The first thing we're gonna do is disable secure boot and change the boot order, so we're gonna boot off of the SteamOS installation media. And I'm gonna go into BIOS setup here, and you can see I actually already have SteamOS installed on this SSD, or I'm basically gonna reinstall over it. So I'm going to push my USB install media. This is the SteamOS installation media. I pushed it up to the top. I'm going to go to more settings here, and under security, I just want to make sure that secure boot is disabled. If you do not have secure boot disabled, you cannot boot into SteamOS. Secure boot is disabled here, and just double checking, our USB storage media is the first device. So I'm going to go to exit and then exit saving changes. And we're going to start booting into our SteamOS installation environment. And we can start to see the kernel messages from SteamOS booting up right now. All right, so we're in our SteamOS installation environment, and I've already downloaded 2 versions of the SteamOS installer script. All right, so the first tool I'm going to show you how to clone is the SteamOS custom install script. I'll have the URL and the GitHub repo in the description of the video. The first thing you want to do is go to this code button, click on it, and the default's going to be SSH, which is applicable if you're a developer. But for everyone else, click this HTTPS option, and then you'll click this copy to clipboard here. And you'll just go to over here and open a console. And by default, you're going to just be in your home folder, home/deck, which is fine. You're going to type in git space clone and then paste the URL. And you'll see it cloned everything here. And now we have this steam-os-custom-install. So we're going to type in cd and then go into steam-os-custom install. And we can see the script here. If you've cloned it from the GitHub repository, it's already going to be at executable. Notice how it's kind of got that light blue hue to it. But if you copied it from a raw file location, the properties making it executable won't be there. So to make it executable, you'll type in chmod space a+x and just paste the name of the script. And now your script is ready to go. What I usually do is I move it to a folder where I know I can find it, but it's okay if you just use this folder to run it from. And so I'm going to just minimize this window, but this part is very important here. It is critical. So we're going to go into System here and then KDE Partition Manager. And so we've got a few disks here. The first one is my NVMe SSD. When I click on it, you can see in the title bar here, /dev/NVMe0N1. That's my internal solid state drive in my Legion Go. I don't want to mess with that one. But this second one, /dev/SDA, which we can see at the title bar, this is this USB interface right here. And so you'll have to just pay close attention because here's another USB, and that one is the SteamOS install media. The way I can tell them apart is my install media is 29 gigs, and this one's a 1 terabyte drive. And I can see SteamOS is actually already installed there. But before I can do anything, what we're going to want to do is create a new partition table. And we can't do that because I already have data on the disk. And more importantly, when you boot into the SteamOS install media, it mounts the volumes that it knows what they are. And so I need to unmount these before I can create a new file system. So I'm right clicking on them and going to unmount. And we'll do that for those 3 things that were auto mounted. And now look at this. This option is no longer grayed out. I can click on it and I'm going to use the GPT format and create new partition table. That looks good. And so I'm going to hit apply, and it's making sure we want to confirm the changes. Yes, I'm good with it. And this should take just a few seconds. Yep, it's done. And so I can close out of this. And now we can go over to our custom install script in our terminal. So we'll go to System and Console. So a console is another name for a terminal. We can see right here the script is already there. Let me clear the screen here. Sudo space /, the name of the script, and then we can hit enter. And so the very first thing it's prompting us here is this action installs SteamOS on your device. You can either wipe it out or manually specify partition indices. In another video, I show you how to manually specify partition indices. In this video, we're just going to use the whole disk, and there's no reason not to since we're using external storage here. The beauty of this method is that you can try SteamOS without actually installing it on your main SSD. And so I'm going to go ahead and click proceed here. And this step is critical. So it wants to default to /dev/NVMe0N1. And SteamOS by default checks if you have an NVMe solid state drive. If you don't, it won't let you install it. That check has been removed here, and now you can enter the path for anything. But I'm going to go ahead and delete all that, and we're going to type in SDA. That stands for the first hard drive. And remember, that came from this here, System KDE Partition Manager. That was this Intel drive here, and we saw it was /dev/SDA. And so I've plugged in that value here in this prompt. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And now it's asking for our SSD installation suffix. That's irrelevant here because we're using an external drive. If we were using an NVMe SSD, we would leave the P suffix here. So I'm going to delete that. Then I'm going to hit OK. And it's saying, warning, you're not using an NVMe SSD. That's not considered a best practice. This warning is basically just about, hey, your performance isn't going to be as good as it would be if you were installing to an internal NVMe SSD, and you're acknowledging that you accept that. And yes. We don't want to manually partition our disks in this case. If you wanted to specify partition indices, you put no. But here I'm going to hit yes because I'm going to use the entire disk. And then this is one last warning. Hey, are you sure you want to delete your whole disk? Yes. And here it goes. It's installing SteamOS on this external SSD. And every time SteamOS detects a volume type that it understands, it auto mounts it here. It's kind of annoying. It just keeps popping up. But I'm going to just keep clicking out of it so we can see the installation progress over here in the console. And you actually don't have to do anything when you're installing it. You can just leave it alone. There's no need to worry about it. You can just let it be. And so now it's copying the main part of the operating system. So at first it created all the file systems. It created the EFI, the ESP partitions. These are the things needed to make it bootable. And now it's copying the main operating system payload. This last step is going to move pretty quickly. And there it goes. Now it's making it bootable. And at this point, you can click proceed. In general, usually it automatically will boot into SteamOS. I'm going to show you how to manually make sure it goes into SteamOS. So I'm going to hit cancel here. I'm going to close this terminal. And then I'm just going to go ahead and shut down entirely. Now with everything shut down, I'm going to boot into the BIOS here. I'm going to tap the power button while holding volume plus. The Legion Go is going to detect change in the, so it found the new EFI bootloader manager. And so I'm just leaving my finger on volume plus. So I'm going to go into BIOS setup. And you see SteamOS is already the topmost option. But if for some reason you don't see your drive after doing that, what I'd recommend is powering back down, unplug everything, and replug it. I'm going to go ahead and remove my SteamOS recovery media and go ahead and let it boot into SteamOS because it's already the topmost option. I can just hit exit here. And it's going to start booting into SteamOS off of this external drive. And what's simply amazing about this, I can take this, once I've logged into SteamOS, once I've set up my account and everything, I can take this bootable USB, plug it into any other SteamOS compatible machine, boot off of this drive, and boom, I'm into SteamOS, my game library is there. For all intents and purposes, we've entered the era of portable SteamOS setup that you can take around with you. Now you could already do this with other Linux-based gaming distros without much difficulty. The problem is that SteamOS has a non-traditional installer. It just uses a bash script. And so here we're just going to go ahead and set up like you would like normal. And there we are. At this point, you would just do the normal SteamOS onboarding and you're ready to go. Alright, so you can see I've got my Atari VCS hooked up to my television here and it's booting off of the SteamOS recovery media. I've already set it up to be the first boot option. And I'm going to get closer here so we can see all the details on the screen. Alright. In order to get the SteamOS repair device custom script, which doubles as an install script, you'll just navigate over to the Innovision Games GitHub page under SteamOS-repair-device-custom, and I'll have a link in the description of the video. But you'll go over here to this code option, click on it, make sure to select HTTPS, and now you can copy this full URL to the clipboard. You could also download a zip file if you choose, but this is a lot simpler. So we're going to go here to System, go over to Console, and just double checking here. Yep, we're in our home directory. So I'm going to type in git space clone space and then paste the URL. And now we can check the folders there. You see it here, and we can just type in cd and then paste the folder name. And if we look here, the script is already an executable by default, but if you copied it from a raw file location, you need to explicitly make it an executable. You'll type in chmod space a plus x and then paste the name of the script, and that would make it an executable. And now you're ready to use the script. Later in the video, the folder I was using didn't reflect this final location because that's when the script was still in development, but just look for the name repair_device_custom. And so if we can get a lot of people using this, it would be quite useful and help the community out. Now that we've got our SteamOS custom installer downloaded here, we're going to go ahead and go into the folder containing it by typing cd and then pasting the name of the folder. And we're going to type in ls here, and we see this script repair device custom.sh. That's what we're going to run. But before we run it, let's make sure we know where we want to install SteamOS to. So technically you can install this to an external USB device at this point. You can install it to the additional internal storage on your Atari VCS or your desktop computer or your Legion Go or your ROG Ally. Any device, any location will work so long as you know the correct path to give it. And so what we're going to do is go into System here and then KDE Partition Manager. And so I'm just going to use the secondary internal storage on the Atari VCS. I installed it in a previous video. So you'll just click on here, and I already have SteamOS installed, so I'm about to delete it to be able to reinstall it. But the most important thing here is you're going to check to see if there's any drives mounted, because you won't be able to create a new partition table if there's drives mounted. So we're going to go right click on this one and then go to unmount. And then see all these that were connected. See how it shows that it's locked? That's because it's mounted. So we're going to unmount the next one and then this one as well. So with everything unmounted, now this new option, new partition table, shows up. And I'm just double checking here. This is my /dev/SDA. This mmcblk, this is the default place where the Atari OS is installed. And then this USB disk, dev, and then I can't see it here. You can drag this over. So that's dev SDB. But if you weren't able to see it, you can right click on it and go to properties. And so I'm not picking that location. That's my recovery media. But this BP5/dev/SDA, dev SDA, that's where I want to go. And so I'm comfortable with the things that we've unmounted. I'm going to go ahead and click new partition table. I'm going to click create new partition table, and then I'm going to go over here and click apply. And it's saying, do you really want to do this? Because it's going to delete everything. Yes, I do. And it should be relatively quick. It finished already. I'm going to click OK, and we can exit out of this, and we're ready for the next step, which is to start our custom installer here. All right, so now that we've determined we want to install SteamOS to /dev/SDA, we're going to go ahead and run repair device custom.sh. So you'll type in sudo space /repair, and if you have a mouse and keyboard, you can hit tab and it'll autocomplete. And then after the name of the script, another space and the word all. This means that we're going to, instead of trying to actually repair SteamOS, we're going to delete everything that's there and create new file systems. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. The first thing it's going to do is prompt you for the install path. Now SteamOS comes hard-coded to use /dev/NVMe 0 and 1. The Atari and external hard drives are not NVMe type storage. And so we're going to delete all this here and then type in SDA and then hit enter. And then it's asking for our SSD installation suffix. This does not apply because we're not using NVMe storage, but if we were using NVMe storage, we would want to use P as the suffix. In this case, because we're using a normal hard drive or we're wanting to use an external hard drive, we'll just delete this. And then we're going to hit OK. And now it's saying, warning, We're installing to a non-NVMe SSD. This is not considered a best practice, so by default, Valve does not let you install to non-NVMe SSD because of performance reasons. So this is just to make sure that you acknowledge that this isn't going to be as performant as possible. So yes, I'm okay with that. Click yes. And it's just making sure one more time, this can't be undone. It's going to wipe all the data on the selected installation device. So we're going to go ahead and click proceed. And here it's just creating our partitions. And this will take, 10 to 15 minutes, depending on the speed of your USB and your destination installation media. So I'm just going to let it run. All right, once it's all said and done, you'll be prompted with this dialog telling you that the reimaging was completed. And if you click proceed, it will reboot. If you find yourself in a situation where you didn't get prompted with this screen by the end of it, what you're going to want to do is go into the KDE partition manager, unmount all the partitions that are mounted on the device that you want to install SteamOS to, then create a new partition table and run it again. At most, you'll have to do this twice. And so now we're going to go ahead and click proceed. And it's important to go ahead and remove the USB storage media. And at this point, SteamOS should be the default boot option. If it's not, you'll have to go into the BIOS and change your boot order. And it takes a few minutes to boot up if it's your first time. Just have patience. All right, and we are in. It'll take a few minutes to download. All right, and so it's rebooting. And once it's rebooted, we're going to be prompted with the screen where we can scan our QR code to log into Steam. All right, and we're in. So at this point, you would just scan your QR code, it logs you into Steam, and you're ready to go. All right, we're back, and I just want to show you we've got SteamOS running on our external solid state drive, but this works with any drive. So look at this. So this right here is our solid state drive that's got CachyOS installed on it, and this was dev/SDA. If we go all the way back up to system here, let's take a look. So we're on SteamOS 3.7.19 Hollow. Here's all of our parameters. And so I've got my solid state drive hooked up here. Let's go ahead and fire up Elden Ring. And I've already got my settings configured. So I'm using 1280 by 800 with integer scaling and the FSR sharpening filter. So I definitely notice my load times are not as snappy as they are on the internal NVMe SSD. But once we're loaded up here, I mean, look at that. In this cave, this is an area of the game that I play often for benchmarking and profiling performance, because it gives me a nice variety here where I'm in a cave, but as soon as I step out, there's a lot of stuff going on at a distance and it's harder to render. And even here, we're staying at like 40 to 45 frames a second. And I'm using the balanced TDP setting here. I'm not giving it a lot of juice, so to speak. But this is amazing that this game is running off of an external solid state drive. I'm getting pretty much the same performance I get with the internal drive. In today's video, I shared 2 tools that I put together that allows you to install SteamOS on any storage device. That way you can try SteamOS without affecting your current gaming setup. It's been nearly a year since we started discussing the ability to do these kind of things with folks on the channel in the comments section of our videos, especially around the time SteamOS first started coming out to third-party devices. And it's because of your comments, your likes, your subscribes, I put together these tools for our community. In fact, I want to thank everyone joining us here, because we just recently hit our 5,000 subscriber mark. Thank you so much for your engagement, your contributions, and your support. If you plan to try this out, hit me up in the comments section. Let me know how it goes. Also, keep me informed with the things you'd like to see next. It is these discussions that clearly are driving our channel and the type of content we cover. Be sure to hit that like button, hype the video, and subscribe. That way you don't miss all the amazing toys and gaming tips we've got coming down the pipeline.